In Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna had said that the only true reality is death. We all live and we all want to live forever, but we know that the ultimate thing is death. But what if I tell you that you know you are about to die and you are preparing for death, or you are being forced to die? What would be the mindset of yours? And especially when not as an individual but as a community, you are treated as an animal, and as you can see in this image, you are just fitted into a cluttered space devoid of any amenities, where you are worse than an animal, and you know that any moment can be that moment where you will be called off, you'll be called out, you will be shot dead, or you will be administered a poisonous gas. Yes, if you have guessed it right, I am talking about one of the most organized incident of genocide in the modern world era, that is Holocaust. It is said that historical traumas have their own lifespan. Probably historical traumas at an individual, community, or at the state level, they survive longer than even civilizations. That is why even today people talk about the atrocities being committed by the Roman Emperor Nero, or the atrocities suffered by various communities, or the history of religious persecution. Now, what connects all of this is the idea that in all of these genocides, religion, which probably was one of an institution created by man to serve a social purpose, to provide hope, or to give a psychological boost, has been the center stage of it. In fact, in the modern era, we have seen a number of incidents of genocide, or a number of events or developments where people have suffered, people have died in millions because of religious conflicts, whether it is the 30 years war, where so many deaths happened, where we don't have any documented history that people even resorted to cannibalism, or the American Civil War, the atrocities of slaves who were brought from the coastal Africa, or during First World War, the Armenian genocide, which was even remembered recently. But in all these, whenever we talk about religious atrocities, religious persecution, Holocaust always would come first in our mind. 7th January is commemorated as the International Remembrance Day for Holocaust. In this short video, I will try to help you understand that what have been the various historical opinions on Holocaust, and how the Holocaust not only was an event, it has been an embarrassment, and there has been attempts by considerable state agencies towards collective denial. How it has brought about so many changes in the international law, and how it has changed the discourse of the geopolitics and imbibed a sense of collective responsibility towards upholding of human rights, especially after Second World War. Now, if we talk about Holocaust, Holocaust is associated with the organized killing of the Jews, which started during World War I by the Nazis, and also supported by the Nazi sympathizers in the German-controlled Europe. Means, right from the time the Nazis came to power, when Hitler was appointed as the Chancellor in 1933, if we see the timeline of it, and you can see in this image that the people who are somewhere in a concentration camp, they have no idea of what they are going to face, but patiently they are going to, or they are preparing for their eventual death. So if we talk about Holocaust, if we try to understand Holocaust and we see that timeline of it, then the Nazis coming to power in 1933, when Hitler became the Chancellor, and after coming to power, the Nazis started promoting and they created a structure for anti-Semitism. Anti-Semitism is a policy where the Jewish community, in particular, were targeted, they were separated, and then they were systematically eliminated first in Germany and then in the German controlled areas. Now, there is a lot of debate why anti-Semitism, but we understand that the Nazis also were trying to take advantage of the anti-Semitism feeling. This was not something new or only in Germany. Anti-Semitism or anti-Jewish sentiment has been there. In fact, in Russia it has been, in France there has been anti-Semitism, but the institutional shape that was given by the Nazis and the horrendous act that was committed by the Nazis was of unprecedented scale. And then we see that anti-Semitism led to ghettoization of the Jews. Jews were separated. And then when World War II started, we see that in the Polish city, in a number of places, but especially in the Polish city of Auschwitz, concentration camps. So in West Poland, when Germany acquired West Poland, so systematically in large number the Jews population was segregated and they were sent to these concentration camps where they were killed. Even before also they were shot dead. So there has been a lot of historical literature that has been written, and after the German-controlled Poland was liberated by the Soviet, and they came across the heaps of dead bodies, the remains, and also a number of literature, the first-hand accounts of many, I would not say survivors, but many who were during or who had lived this treacherous period from 1939 to say 1943-44, especially the diary of a Jewish girl, Anne Frank, whose family had moved to Netherlands but was later captured in 1944. And during that period of 1942 to 1944, when her entire family along with a number of Jews were hiding in the back side of a government building, she had meticulously documented a diary which she kept on editing, believing that if she survives this ordeal, then she would be able to publish it later. She could not survive, only her father survived, but her diary provides unique insights, the diary of Anne Frank. Now, after Second World War, when it became clear that the Nazis had carried out genocide, there was not only criticism, but Nuremberg trial started from October 1945 to November 1946. Hitler had shot himself dead. But during this time, the Nuremberg trial of the Nazi officials started. And during the Nuremberg trial, many of these Nazi officials acknowledged to the genocide, acknowledged to Holocaust, but they also put the entire blame on Hitler and his higher generals, and they said that we were merely obeying the orders. That is why there is a historical debate on who was responsible for Holocaust. Was it planned? And did all the orders come from above? Before going to that historical debate, which is very important from history optional point of view or otherwise also for your other knowledge, you should also know that the Nuremberg trials, it was the application of retroactive criminalization principle, or what we call as the ex post facto law. That is the principle where you are held guilty for a crime under a law which did not exist at the time of committing it. That means that at the time when Holocaust, at the time when these killings were there, it was not a crime in any of the law books, but systematically the law books were revised and these people, the Nazi officials, were declared as war criminals. Now, it was a shock for the entire world. The UN and the Declaration of Human Rights and the Nuremberg trial also brought about a shift in world politics where the upholding and protection of human rights was no longer considered as a responsibility or the preserve of a state, a community, but as a collective responsibility. Therefore, we see that after the Nuremberg trial, the International Court of Justice was established so that criminals on an international level, irrespective of their jurisdiction or the place of committance of the crime, they are tried in accordance to the universal laws. Now, as I was talking about the debate on Holocaust, a lot of literature has been there on Holocaust. Now, there are a number of schools or there are a number of views on Holocaust, but probably all of them agree that anti-Semitism was one of the cornerstones of Nazi policy, and Hitler, who in his autobiography Mein Kampf has treated or has termed these Jews as vermin or germs, or what we call as Dimak, was also anti-Jew. But to what extent Hitler was regulating the affairs, or it was a suo motu initiative, or it was an attempt by some of the generals at the ground level to go an extra step, that has led to different views. Now, if you see the debate on Holocaust, then till 1970s, because earlier there was a complete silence on Holocaust. Yes, there was an element of shock. The West German Federal Republic dissociated itself from Holocaust. The Germans said that we are glad that Hitler has died and we do not associate with our Nazi past. Even the French did not acknowledge that some of them had supported or were in complete approval of the anti-Jew program that was going on the French soil after the German occupation of France. But till 1970s, the school of thought that has prevailed is called as the intentionalist approach, or they are also called as programmist. Again, there are a number of historians, but we will say William Shirer or Karl Bracker. All of them, they believe that it was Hitler and his top generals who had been planning for this type of organized extermination of Jews from the beginning. Now, some of them believe that it was going on since 1919 in the mind of Hitler. Others say that no, it was only after Second World War. But yes, it was controlled from the above, and Hitler was in complete knowledge of what was happening and was even promoting and encouraging and providing all the wherewithals for the Holocaust. So they say that this was the straight road to Auschwitz. In fact, all the American historians, all the British historians and the French historians, they have spoken about it. In fact, in 1968, let me tell you that in Germany, for the first time, a section of German youth, they started an anti-establishment rebellion where they started asking questions from the government, and many of them later moved out of Germany. So it was for the first time in 1960s, 1968 onwards, that in Germany also they started writing and they started presenting a first-hand account. Now, what is remarkable about Germany is that today there is not complete silence, or the German government does not deny it completely. In fact, in the school texts, the Germans, the children, the students are taught about Holocaust, about the various crimes being done by the Nazis. This is how education should be. Unlike the British, who have completely absolved themselves of the crimes they have done in India and many colonies of the world. So, British promoted this historical amnesia, but the Germans are acknowledging the past, and people, leaders like Willy Brandt and others, who stepped up and acknowledged and started saying sorry and paying condolences for those who had lost their life and suffered during the Holocaust. However, we find that from 1970s, when new evidences started emerging, then a theory, that is the functionalist theory, emerged. This theory presented the view that is twisted road to Auschwitz. Auschwitz is a town in West Poland. And they say that it was not completely because of Hitler, it was a suo motu initiative. So they say that it was a suo motu initiative or it was on the own initiative taken by a number of German generals who, after occupation of Poland, a densely populated Western Poland, suddenly found that the resources they have during the wartime is not sufficient to cater to the military needs and also that of population. So they decided that we have to eliminate, or we have to take care of some of this extra population. So they started killing people. Now this is a view. Now this view, according to the functionalists, they say, in fact, one of the prominent historian is Timothy Mason. Timothy Mason, 1970s, he has said that too much of blame is put on Hitler. In fact, a new view is emerging that Hitler was not as strong dictator as he was presented in the earlier texts. Now we see that later on, or the contemporary view, what is the view today? The contemporary view has brought into picture both the intentionalists and the functionalists. So they have said that it was both pressure from above and pressure from below, or both factors have played a role in the committance of this genocide. In fact, they have come up with a very interesting theory that is called as the group shift approach, a psychological theory where some of the individuals went overboard, some showcased their excessive zeal, because the rise of Nazis also led to radicalization of thought of a significant section of German population. So ऐसा क्या होता है? What happens is that whenever this radicalization happens on a large scale, then some individuals go overboard, or some individuals go that extra mile to prove themselves as being the hardened or the core members, and it was these generals who, to exhibit their strong anti-Semitism commitment, started committing the atrocities. So even today, when we talk about the atrocities being suffered by the blacks, we remember Holocaust not only because it led to the elimination of 2/3 of the Jewish population in Europe, around 6 million Jews were killed, but it was a turning point in international politics where it was realized that the world must prevent any such incidents from happening. Even today, when the violence is going on, or the war between Israel-Palestine or Israel-Hamas is going on, then there is a need for the world to step up and speak for the sufferings of the people in the West Bank, in the Gaza region. Thank you.